everybody. I'm Maritza Grooms, and you're watching CCTV. Today, we're going to be talking about self-care in the nonprofit sector. Ooh, the elusive self-care, right? I'm here with my esteemed panelists, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Lonnell. I'm from Cambridge by GiveBack, where we collect bikes and fix them up and give them right back to the neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Erin, Muirhead McCarty. I'm the Executive Director at Community Arts Center in Cambridge. We've been in the community for about 85 years in Cambridge, serving low-income families and youth with arts programming.
And I'm Peter DiMuro, and I have a couple of hats, two of which are as Executive Artistic Director at the Dance Complex, which is right down the street. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year on September 18th, a little commercial. On Sunday, September 18th, there'll be a great street celebration, which is indicative of the work we do in this community, but also beyond and throughout New England and the world in dance. And I'm also a practicing artist. I am still making dances, and with a group called Public Displays of Motion, which performs all over the place. So,
awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being willing to talk about something that I feel like it's kind of a hot topic right now. We got the idea because Cambridge Nonprofit Coalition was celebrating National Nonprofit Day, and they were like, oh, submit your self-care selfies. But also, when we're talking about self-care in the nonprofit sector, it's kind of tough because this is like inherently service, right? And I feel like when we think of nonprofits, it's like, oh, we all wear multiple hats. We're all constantly giving. But when do we give back to ourselves? And I think that's important to do, right? So let's get into it. Are y'all ready?
Sure.
I think so.
So I would like to know, for the audience, for the viewers at home, how long have all of us been in the nonprofit sector? Because I think that's kind of an important place to start when we're talking about taking care of ourselves. And maybe some of us are good at it, maybe some of us are not so great at it. So how long have we been in the sector, guys?
I've been in, the organization started 2 years ago. We just celebrated like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, 2 years, very fresh, so.
What was your life before that?
Oh man, my life before that was a lot of chef jobs. I'm in like the back of the kitchen, 120 degrees back there. The sous chef is right here, making sure it was one of those situations, and I just had enough of that, to be honest. And that was like, I was burnt out at that time, so I had to figure something out. Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah.
Making connections.
I had
burnt out.
Yeah.
And in the restaurant business too. Okay, all right, there's layers to that. There's layers. Erin, how long have you been in?
So my first development position was probably 25 years ago. But then I've sort of been in and out of the nonprofit sector for a while. So in my current capacity, I have been the ED at Community Arts Center for almost 2 years. I've probably altogether maybe 10 years, but I've sort of been, like I said, in and out of this world. I've been in the arts and design realm as well. So I'm back.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
I kind of feel like the grandpa in the group. It's been 40 years of nonprofit work. I started as a dancer, which it has its own kind of relationship to, what's too much, how, and especially context of history when you enter kind of something. Dance at that time was, if you're a professional, you work all these hours, you sweat and you slave for things, and you do what you're told. You don't ask questions, that kind of thing. And then I entered the nonprofit administration world, which wasn't much different. I think that mentality, though, that it's like you keep trying to make it work and have value. And so from dancer to choreographer to administrator, off in different roles over the last 40 years, it's been variations on that theme. Yeah.
Wow. Y'all, first of all, thank you for your service to our community and to everybody who benefits from the services that you have offered, whether it was in this capacity or otherwise, because that's what nonprofit is all about. Like, we're in service to the community, even like being a singular dancer. People don't think about this all the time and how the arts are like a service to the community, but it is. I've been a dancer, so I know the struggle. And I don't dance professionally because that same mentality, you just push, and it hurts.
Right.
But then again, we all got into the nonprofit industry, and I myself have been in it for 10 years. And much like you said, Peter, getting into it, you're like, oh, I'm just a bleeding heart. I want to serve this community, and I will give my all. And sometimes giving your all means really giving every piece of you, your time, your energy, all of your talents and your creativity. And by the time you go home, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like a dancer at the end of the day. Like I'm like, oh, I feel like I just danced like 10 like rehearsals with Beyonce,
Sure.
you know? Yeah. But let's talk about that. Why do you think it is the way that it is in nonprofits where we give so much of ourselves? Why is it set up that way? Is there time for us to give back to ourselves? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's like a passion tax that you pay, because if you're really invested in the work that you're doing, the hours can slip by and you don't even sort of realize you've hit a wall before you've hit a wall. So, I think there is this idea that there's an altruism there, and that some of the labor inherently should be unpaid, and so that contributes to kind of creating these structures where many of us are maybe not appropriately funded or staffed. And when you don't really have the right framework to support self-care, that's where you see some cracks start to emerge and burnout creep in.
Right. I feel like we can't talk about self-care without talking about burnout, right? And I mean, you're coming from the restaurant industry, and you already said you were burnt out there, and then you've been here for 2 years in this role, but the last 2 years have kind of been tricky because we've all been experiencing a little bit of a public health crisis, just a little. And then you're also just 2 years in this current role, which must have been crazy.
It was, and I actually came in, and the organization I was at sort of had a wave of burnout right when COVID hit. People's lives were sort of upended in a lot of ways, and there were people who worked at the organization who were making big life decisions. They wanted to live closer to people they loved. They wanted to get married or decide to make big life changes. And it all there was a big convergence of people making big life changes and COVID hitting. And so when I came into the organization, it was really riding a wave of burnout that had occurred there. And so we were rebuilding. There was a pandemic. There were lots of waves of people getting sick. We were doing in-person programming. So we were, even when a lot of the schools were closed down, we were in person. So we would be sort of logging on to Zooms to talk about stuff and see people in their living room. And we were masked and in our studio spaces working with young people and trying to keep them excited and connected with each other and engaged. So it's been a real challenge during this time.
I totally hear that, and I know because we've been in contact for the last 2 years, and our organizations are have similar missions to serve and to also create through art, and I think there's a devaluation of, before all this happened, there's this devaluation of arts, of creative process, of this kind of altruism that comes with it, or this I have family members, let's say, that have questioned my choice of careers over the years, and it's like every time I'm trying to stand up for the value of creative process, what it does for kids, what it does for adults, what moving has done for our sense of PTSD during this crisis and being together. I mean, there's I see the value, I see how it saves lives, and yet we often often are put in this position of defensive mode to say no to the people who don't believe, even though they're experiencing this value themselves, on a daily basis of moving with each other, exhaling, being with family. That's community, right? And that's what we do in a dance world. When we opened up July of 2020, people told me, you shouldn't do this. And some board members, others concerned, and rightfully so. But I also heard from the constant, the monthly and sometimes every other week calls with my teachers, with the students, with the renters who make dances every day in the building. They were freaking out that if they were alone once more in a room, in a kitchen, dancing with other people on Zoom, it was not the same as, even though they would be masked and spatially distanced from other people, that had a certain value that the other stuff couldn't satisfy. And it's mental ability. They were disabled by this being aloneness. So I truly, if there's a silver thread to a pandemic, not a silver lining, because that's too much to ask, but a silver thread to all this, is that we've discovered these wonderful moments that are like have reaffirmed for me, oh, this does have value, and I can explain it better now. Maybe not tonight, but in that way. So yeah, totally hearing and supporting everything you've said.
Oh my gosh, yes, the young people, the performers, and I even think like people who partake in art were experiencing like some kind of like, they're missing something. They were missing. I went to a live performance with young people dancing just last week, and like, I'm masked, not everybody in the audience was, but just like seeing the young people so proud of what they accomplished. I was so proud of them, young people in the community. And then also just as a patron, I hadn't felt that energy in years. And that was a source of my self-care I felt like I was missing. Like, being in that kind of communal space, watching everybody support and cheer on these people, these young people especially, right? There's something there, and that people forget about when we're talking even about self-care and burnout and isolation from the last couple of years. And I can't even imagine. So you're coming in. We're already a year into the pandemic, and you're like, okay, let me hop on this.
So it was. The organization started in the pandemic. We was in the middle of it. George Floyd was murdered. So we're in that state where you can't even go outside. The gyms is closed. Nobody, like, everything was like to the point where everything's standing still. I'm already not working at the restaurants no more, and I have time. I'm clear. I'm not burned out. I have clear vision, and I had some actual time it took like 1 week, took like 2 weeks to come up with something. And then I actually started to go out with it. But the thing is about it, I thought something that I love to do. That was the idea that took me 2 weeks. So now that I start to do this thing that I love to do, ride bikes, help the community, help out my peers and stuff like that, it's kind of less of the stress. Even though physically I'm getting burnt out, fixing bikes, staying up late, delivering bikes, picking up bikes, getting cut by bikes, going on bike rides. Physically, I'm definitely getting burnt out, but mentally, watching the smile on the kid's face, or teaching a kid how to ride a bike, or the parent who doesn't have enough money to get the bike, that kind of gives back some positive feedback, some positive energy to me. So I'm like treading right by right now mentally. Physically, I'm probably always gonna be burnt out. Maybe I can get some advice from that, but I'm almost to that point where, I'm doing too much physically.
I wish I could say, oh, take a break, but it's so easy to say. And I feel like you're all talking about this balance, right? This balance of giving and providing something to the community that is so important, something that provides self-care for other people, right? This is an opportunity. Every single one of your organizations, even CCTV, we're all organizations that provide an opportunity for people to invest in themselves, for people to care for themselves through something, some kind of creative outlet or physical outlet. I bought a bike during the pandemic myself because that was my joy. That was the way that I escaped life when I was a kid. But there's also that balance of we're giving so much to the community, and how do we take care of ourselves doing that? Are there ways that you all take care of yourselves within your organizations? are there ways that your organizations think about investing in self-care for your staff, for you and for your staff? What does that look like if you have a vision for it?
A vision is a strong word. Let's say, I would, before the pandemic, I was blessed to work in rehearsal situations that went against the norm of that, the pre 2000s, the ballet teacher with the cane and hitting you and all that stuff. So I worked in some very supportive environments, and I think I went into. We often use that in my staff meetings. I often say I learned how to run things administratively because I know how to make a dance. I know how to lead. I know how to follow. I know how to work with one other person, two other people, three other people, a group. I know how to move in unison, and I know how to be the soloist. And so all these things that we learn in dancing, you can apply to what happens in an office. And yes, there's this hierarchy that can happen in any administration, especially if nonprofits copy the corporate world. And I try to say that's very nice, but I'm going to just put that over here for a while. When some of my staff wants that hierarchy because they feel comfortable in that, I try to put that aside and try to flatten the circle as much as possible. And we do constant check-ins. Just tonight, every staff meeting checking in. We had a communications meeting, and I wasn't feeling well today. I was feeling, I need to hear some damn good news. And so I said, I know we're about to talk about communications. Can we name one good thing that happened today, for everybody in the circle? It took 2 minutes. But in that 2 minutes time, it was like this, like everybody's shoulders went down. I noticed mine and others. So it's that kind of like little minute by minute taking care of. I wish I could say, yes, I go 4 weeks to, Tampa or wherever and lollygag in the surf. I can't do that right now.
Oh, but only to lollygag.
To lollygag. But to take 2 minutes at a time, I mean, that's a lesson into itself. And I just keep track of myself and the staff, because if I know I lose it, and there have been many a time over this past couple of years where I've felt like I need to vent. I'll find a board member. I'll do something else. I try not to vent with the staff because that I want to. Not that I want to be untransparent, but I also I know part of my role is to hold the basket of action for us all, but to give them room to take the damn day off. Go for it. Be human, deal with it, go cry if you need to. And we come back and we come back to work, so.
I love that. Be human.
Yeah.
Go cry. Sometimes we all just need to cry.
Yeah.
How about for you, Erin?
Yeah, I don't know that I have answers. I don't know that we've struck a balance even during this time, because in many ways I think we came, I hired a lot of new staff, and we all sort of came into the picture on the scene at Community Arts Center in a time where there was a global pandemic. And so in a lot of ways we were operating on survival mode. And I don't know that we've quite flipped the switch on that yet. But we have all been, really good about giving each other grace, and been open about talking about what our needs are. So I think facilitating an environment where people are okay to not be okay, and to talk about things, and if they're upset, they can be upset. And if they're getting on each other's nerves, it's okay. We spend a lot of time together. Sometimes we're going to have disagreements about things. But just to have this kind of place where people feel open to talk about all these things, and it doesn't feel punitive. And we've talked a lot about ways that we can infuse self-care into our operations. We've brought in yoga for our students. So our students do yoga once a week. We had someone come in with some singing bowls. We did a sound bath. Nice. We had a really great funder who, out of the blue, just sent us some money and said, I know this has been a really rough period of time. I want you to take care of your staff. And I literally just divided the money up and cut checks, because I knew that that's what people really needed in this time. Great. So, people like acknowledgement for the work that they're doing. And sometimes I think the best thing you can do, if you can put cash in people's pockets, that's a real good, I appreciate your work kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
And so we've talked about it. I think it just has to be on your radar. And I don't know that there's such a thing as balance. There are going to be times where it's busier and everybody has to roll up their sleeves and dig in, and you're pulling long days. And then there are moments where you can kind of relax into it and take a little bit more time. But I don't know that we have figured it out yet. We're a work in progress.
I mean, I feel like that's the best you can hope for,
Yeah.
right? And like you said, giving yourself grace, being a human, giving yourself grace, because what else can we do? And those little things, those 2 minutes, the money,
Yeah.
those things add up, and it makes people feel valued. It makes people feel seen. Even just being open and being transparent and saying, guys, I'm having a bad day. Sometimes I feel like you as a leader showing that you're a human is creating that environment, and it makes people want to come to work, makes people want to continue to do the work. Are there things that you think you could do, Lonnell?
Yeah. So where we're at right now, we don't have employees. We have volunteers right now.
Wow.
But it's still, the method can still apply to the volunteers because
Yes.
we all are human. So some light things is I would have a cookout once a year for them. I would usually invite them to my house and I would make food like right off of my stove for them. That's one time a year. I would always ask them when they come in the door. Well, initially, let them know when they come into the shop, this is a peace zone. This is a free thinking zone, a creative free, like everybody just be yourself, one of those zones. I make sure everybody knows that. I always take orders if I'm out. Not like take orders, like, do you need anything? I'm out over here. Do you need anything? Before you get here, do you need anything? So yeah, I think that's all the things that I'm doing right now. I'm just making sure that their mental's all right when they get in the door, that they know that they're in a safe zone. Another thing. So if I come across somebody and they can only help out 1 hour once a month, that's all they need to do. And I don't need nothing else, nothing more from them, nothing less. I think sometimes people bite off a little bit too much, or, they have I don't know what it is, but yeah, so I let people know, like, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. You let me know what you want to do and you can do that. And that like cuts a lot of things in half as far as people being obligated to be here to support or anything like that. Everybody has a life, everybody has things going on. So yeah, I hope that's taking care of them. I really do.
I mean, it sounds like
All
you're
right,
meeting
cool.
people where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. But how do we meet ourselves where we're at? I know. Now we're going to get deep. All right. So when I think about the nonprofit sector, I think about us, we all came to the sector for a reason. We all came to these roles that we're in today for a reason, because in my humble opinion, it seems like we're all natural givers, right? No matter what you're doing in the sector, and you're here because you care about the community. And sometimes that in itself can be exhausting. Like I just recently learned about something called compassion fatigue. Like you care so much and then you take on the traumas of other people. You can get secondhand trauma. I was like, what do you mean secondhand trauma? I don't want that. I have enough of my own, please, no more. And then you're in your own lives, right? Dealing with whatever you're dealing with, and you're trying to probably, if you're a giver, if you're a person who is like utterly compassionate, then you're probably doing that in your own life. You're probably taking care of everybody in the same way, because we're all going to Lonnell's for a cookout. I'm
Everybody's invited. Everybody can come.
I'm ready to tear up the dance floor at your cookout. Right. We're going to tear up the dance floor. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's how we're going to take care of ourselves after this. But when do you find, or do you ever sit and think like, okay, this sector is a lot, maybe I need to take a step back? Or do you ever find yourself just in your own life, like, I just need to turn everything off, I need to shut everything down? Do you ever step away from your emails? He didn't know that was going to be
I was okay up till step away, and then you sent an email. And I went, oh my God, I'm caught. Right? Wow.
I'll tell you, I am not an expert on this. I'm looking for advice myself. We can't solve this crisis. I feel like it's a crisis. We can't solve it all in 1 hour, but.
So it's really hard. I mean, I have a little bit of like an addictive personality. So like I'm kind of like all in or not.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for me to be like find a middle ground. So I have a hard time stepping away from my emails or not checking in on them. Yeah,
it's hard. I feel like in the last what month of COVID is this? God, I can't remember. The 900th or something like that. But I feel like it's gotten. I've come out many ways in my life, and this will be another one in this moment. Is that I'm a depressed person. I've been on antidepressants off and on for most of my adult life, and understanding that about myself, heading and not being choosing not to take antidepressants for the last 15 years or so, you hit a pandemic and you go, should I go back on? And these questions start to come up because you realize certain things about exactly what you said. Why is anybody led to any field? Why does someone go into dance? So that they can keep their mouth shut and just things will be placid and beautiful at the ballet. All the standard stock questions I've gone through. But when the pandemic hit, I think there were a couple of things that helped me about the self-care thing. And one of which is that it was a very difficult summer, lots of personal family challenges, helping people into rehab and whatnot, as well as a death of a dancer. And I had this moment where it was like I was like stuck in the emails, and then I was just like I couldn't physically, viscerally. I was like I couldn't even go toward the computer on it, and I started to visualize something I borrow from the queer community. Is that we see our world as a spectrum now, right? When I was young, we saw gayness and straightness very binary. You're gay or straight, and if you're bisexual, you just haven't decided what's going on. So I'm joking because that's what we thought then. Everybody, don't write me letters. But this idea of a spectrum of experience, could I also think of that as where I'm depressed or not? Well, if I think of myself on a spectrum of beingness, and that includes this relationship to depression, what if this were an equator of feeling, not a spectrum of infinity one way or the other, but this idea of an equator, that I could feel depressed and really feel physically what that is, but then I know that cycle is going to cycle into a place where I'm in control of what that is and I could feel happy. And then maybe it might slip back. But instead of the old model I had, which was the image of the Christmas tree, why am I telling you all this? That I saw, I started feeling depressive modes, like you see the garland or the lights on a Christmas tree, and they get deeper and deeper and wider into the muck that was in that little tripod with the needle water, and it was disgusting, right? And that's where you were stuck. So for me, a tool that I've used in this of self-care is to keep visualizing my existence not as an infinitive line, but one of a circular equator that I know that will come around again, and it's honestly what saved me in the last 4 months especially. So
I think that's a really good way to look at it, because I think it's sort of what I was saying about there are moments where we're just going to be busy, and you got to just sort of, for lack of a better term, suck it up. We're just going to be busy. And then there are times when you can relax into life and have a little bit more time for yourself. But that's sort of those are the ebbs and flows of life. And that's a good visual and a good analogy, is because I think people are very, very comfortable with needing an answer, and we're very productivity oriented, and we need to have a definitive yes you are or no you're not. And it's just not that simple. There are going to be times in your life where you're pouring a little bit more into others, and you might just not have as much time to pour into yourself. And then you just have to kind of check yourself every once in a while. Or like we had mentioned before, have people around you who will check you and say, you got to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I definitely benefit from accountability buddies when I'm feeling low. What's happening with my body? I don't. And then I have friends. Well, have you had water today? Right. My partner, what did you eat? Yeah. And then oftentimes, maybe I should eat something, because again, the nature of this work, sometimes you just go, right? but it's nuance. It's not black and white. It's not binary. It's very much, we're human and we're going to pour and pour. And sometimes we pour until we see, sometimes that Christmas tree is very real.
Yeah.
I mean, I left a whole job because I was there for 7 years working with youth, and when you're working with young people, it's sometimes it's hard. And when you're so compassionate and empathetic, you give, and you just want to take all the hardships away from those young people. Like, oh, I don't want you to go through this. But then it's like, at the end of the day, I'd be depleted, and I'd feel like, okay, but if I leave, who are these kids gonna have? And it really rocked my world when they were like, if you need to leave, do what's best for you, because they had learned that from me. And I was like, okay, they're putting it back on me to take my own advice, but like, I gotta be here for these kids, but how can I be there for these kids if I can't even be there for me? And so it's hard though to figure out how to be there for yourself. It's hard when you have to be there, when it's go, 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 when it's those peaks and valleys, when it's all the ebb and flows. And that's what life is, right? And do you have any answers for us?
Yeah, so what was the question again?
I'm not even sure.
Something about self-care.
Yeah, so
Self-care.
so naturally, when I feel like I'm really getting burned out, the natural thing to do is to ride a bike, you know? But that still keeps me in the world of riding the bikes. I'm still thinking about bikes. I'm probably thinking about the emails that I'm ignoring.
Right.
I definitely ignore emails. Sometimes I need 1 day, sometimes I need 1 week. I need with me, I feel like I have to tap in with myself and really make the adjustments. Like playing football, if somebody's not playing right, you got to really make that adjustments. And sometimes it's riding a bike, sometimes it's not reading it. And my emails are different. I have complaining people wanting free bikes, you know what I'm saying? So it's a little different. So have to ignore that. And then sometimes it gets to the extreme where, don't want to say shut down, but like just go somewhere. Yeah. You can go anywhere. It could be anywhere. It could be a beach. It could be the woods. It can be anywhere. You just gotta go somewhere where you're not reminded of an email or your bike or your nosy neighbors or whatever it is. So yeah, I think there's levels to it, and then you have to adjust to what you're actually, what actually is not there that you need right there at the moment.
And having tools that you can tap into when you hit those moments. I think that connecting to nature is like really big. If you can take a walk or be near water, like those are things that are restorative. Yoga is restorative. We've been doing a lot of this with the students at the Art Center, somatic breathing, things that really just get you to slow down a little bit. Creating art, art teaches patience, and it slows life down a little bit, and focus, and it reduces perfectionism. And so there are a lot of things in the world of art that you can tap into that can help as restorative practices.
I think it also helps to just talk about these things, and you all are helping me. I've been feeling really depleted, and I love my job. I love my job. I love the people I work with, and sometimes I'm just drained and burnt out. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I had COVID like at the beginning of July.
I thought you was gonna say this week. I'm like, what are you doing right now?
I wouldn't put anybody in it. I care about my community. But I didn't take the best care of myself. I was laying in bed and I was like, my boss said, you can take time off. And I was like, but it doesn't feel good to do that. And I would be checking my emails. The emails all look like wing-ding symbols to me. But I was like, what's this person saying in this email? I'll reply in an hour. I'm going to take a nap. But I still worked, and I didn't stop working because I felt like I had purpose. Like I feel like nonprofits are like that too, because it feels good. It gives you meaning, but we definitely have to take care of ourselves.
And this idea of like when they start looking like wingdings, it's like it takes that, like I'm sorry to say that it takes any of us that it's that long that we can't recognize how we're already burnt out. And then when you can't function is the time that you start to take care of yourself. We'd like maybe you should know the litmus test sooner somehow within that. But thank God that you're realizing it then. And I feel like, I don't know how you feel about this, but like during COVID and losing staff and making decisions where you lose very cherished staff members. And I'm speaking to you if this fits it, and starting over fresh with people. And then you're caught in this place of I can't delegate anymore. Can I delegate and share some of this with other folks? And I'm guilty of not delegating to very competent people around me, but that takes time and a little bit of like, get over your ego self. You're not the only person who can do this. Everybody, they share the skills, people learn, and then it won't be so much on you, it'll be on all of us, and that's a hard lesson, for me to learn.
I feel like you were talking directly to me.
Well, no.
I do need to get over myself.
I hear echo, and all of us, because you opened it with this, that we're warm, caring people, we care. And I think and on the flip side of that is caring is also wanting to be needed, and so we should all be damn assured of ourselves that we're fine, we're okay, we're loved, we have impact, so all that.
And when you have a good team around you, a big part of it is wanting to look out for each other too. And so carrying that with you sometimes is difficult because you don't want to take time when you know that what you're taking time away from may land on someone else. And so some of it is just looking out for the people on your team and wanting to make sure that you're, not dropping stuff at someone else's feet. I think we feel a lot of that at our organization, where people are nervous sometimes to take time away because they recognize right now that we're all sort of stretched a little bit thin. And if they take time away, then the workload that they have is going to fall on someone else to some degree. And so there's a guilt factor there, which, it's understandable. It's just something we have to grapple with.
I think Audre Lorde said, self-care is an act of self-preservation. And I would even argue to go further that it's an act of community preservation. And we have to kind of let go of some of that guilt. It's hard though. I can't let go of the guilt. Like if ever I have to put my work on somebody else, I'm not. I'm just going to work myself to the bone until I take that vacation. But when I can, and I do take the vacation, I will tell you, I didn't start taking vacations until probably the last couple of years. And that's even if it's just a staycation. And that's really because I saw my boss modeling that.
But I think that's a structural problem amongst nonprofits. I mean, so that's a bigger issue.
We could do a whole nother segment on the structural problems of nonprofits, because even like I had a conversation with somebody who's I think in the control room right now, right before this, about the inequities, right? Even in some nonprofits where I had an ED once, not here, not at this organization, in a past life, who was making upwards of like $85K while the next person below her was making $50K and had been there for like 20 years and didn't really take vacations, didn't really take any time, and then was constantly drained, constantly sick. A whole bunch of us were just constantly sick. It was a toxic workplace, like let's be real. But like I see all these people now who are at different organizations where they feel valued and supported, have different leadership, and their pay is even better so they can invest in themselves. Some of us couldn't even afford to go to the dentist, and that's that's a whole nother structural issue. So if you can't afford to invest in your health, which is self-care, right? Then how are you gonna be present and take care of the community? How are you going to do that? Sometimes it's just those little things. But again, it's like what you have all been saying. You're trying to model that. I see it in all of your organizations. You're trying to model what it looks like to take care of yourselves and take care of the community at the same time and take care of your staff. It's not easy. I commend you all. Yes.
Thank you.
And I implore you to start practicing self-care a little bit more, just a little bit, even if it's just a little extra time for yourself, a little. And like, as much as bubble baths and all of that, those are nice little things to do, and they're not really self-care. Like, I don't think of those things as self-care because it's not really necessarily investing in your well-being, but it could be, right?
It depends on who you're taking the bubble bath with. Oops, did I go too far?
Hello. Now we're talking.
Yeah, but it could be something like buying all of your staff, bubble bath. I don't know. Maybe don't buy your staff bubble bath, but maybe a gift card for coffee or something like that. Or like every once in a while we get together and we have like just a staff gathering, an informal staff gathering where we could just like talk to each other. I think things like this help people though, like especially we're all from different organizations. We're having this conversation. I didn't know all of the things that you all were dealing with. And I'm over here like, oh, I love these organizations. I had no idea. I might have seen you in passing. I met you on Zoom. I've just seen you in emails.
Right.
But you're all lovely people. And if there is one takeaway that you want people to walk away with when it comes to self-care, when it comes to nonprofits, or even just maybe a promise to yourself, what would it be?
I think don't be super hard on yourself when it comes to thinking about self-care and overthinking self-care. I think you know when you're kind of getting close to the edge and you need to take a break. And you know, most people know when they're not doing the best job. And so you just have to check yourself and figure out ways to kind of recalibrate when you can. But I think just not being hard on yourself about it, because then it feels like another thing you have to do, like another thing you have to check.
Yes.
So.
I would, I'm just reminded, you use the word somatics, and it just seems to me, just breathe consciously, intently breathe in and exhale it all out, and set, that 1 minute to do that, I think can ripple out into so much more effect. And that's the simplest, and I know I can accomplish that, and apropos of, simply just breathe.
I think you have to manage your space, make sure whatever's going on, you're fully aware of what's going on, and make sure you have everything you need to get through that. And if you don't, it's not gonna last forever.
Right.
Just be right back around and you'll be all right in a couple minutes.
Right.
But yeah, just make sure you know what's going on, you know what you're getting yourself into, and you're prepared for this. And then if you have all those, I think everything will be all right.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you all. I think it would be like really good if we all just took a collective deep breath right now. Is that all right with you all? Just really quick. Yeah, let's feel our feet on the ground and our butt in the chair, and let's breathe in. Let's breathe out. We just took care of ourselves and each other. And a little, maybe the community too. Who knows?
We hope they did that at home too, right?
Very nice.
Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for tuning in. You're watching CCTV.